In this video, I'm going to reveal to you the state of the direct mail market for land investors. Man, it is hotter than a $2 Rolex today. I'm going to walk you guys through the 6 steps that you need to be implementing into all of your direct mail campaigns to thrive in 2025 and frankly for years to come. So when I started in 2019, direct mail was the name of the game. And even back then, everyone was saying, oh, direct mail is too saturated. But I didn't care. That's where I started. That's where I made my first buck. And direct mail changed my life. You see, inside of LEA, which is our coaching program, really focused for beginner land investors, teaching them how to go from 0 to a 6-figure land business. We predominantly, like 99% of what we teach falls under using direct mail as a beginner marketing channel. Because direct mail doesn't require you to have a cold call team, a text team. It doesn't require you to take on undue risks that you might with RVMs or even texting nowadays. And it has the highest level of trust inherently instilled in that marketing channel. With that being said, direct mail has changed radically over the years. Like when I got started, the process was rudimentary. It was find a market with simple little infill lots that are relatively cheap, 10 grand or less, send them an offer at half of what they're worth or less, and you would get deals all day long. Now, over time, a lot of people started utilizing that strategy. And that was why there's this kind of adage that direct mail's dead, right? And a lot of people have migrated away from direct mail over the last few years to the point where I would actually argue that while direct mail is radically different than what it once was, and that old strategy no longer works, direct mail kicks ass if you know what you're doing in today's market. Now, like any marketing channel, you can be successful with it. You can be successful with literally any channel. Cold email, cold texting, you name it, you can make it work. And like any channel, it comes with pros and cons. Right? One of the cons of direct mail is the cash conversion cycle is long. There's no ability to actually edit and adjust your campaigns in real time. You see, if you start a text campaign today and you have a really low response rate, in real time, before that campaign's over, you can adjust the copy in your text. You could change your follow-up processes. Like there's so much you could do to improve that. You could get a local area code. You get the point. With direct mail, once it's sent, that money's gone and there's absolutely nothing you can do to get it back. So I say that to say that it's not all rainbows and sunshine, but I'm still a big believer in direct mail. I heard an interesting stat recently from one of the big direct mail companies that they've seen a 40% dip in direct mail campaigns from land investors. And when I go to most events nowadays, people are doing texting, they're doing cold calling. You don't see a lot of people that are just doing direct mail. Now, when they zag, I think you zigging is probably a good idea. So I think the market for direct mail campaigns is less crowded than it's ever been. But with that being said, there's a lot that you have to get right to make them work. The business has matured. We're just in a very different cycle than we were when I started in 2019. So let me walk you through the 6 must-do principles to be successful with direct mail. The first one is really obvious, right? You need better data. Now, better data looks like a couple different things. There's kind of 3 layers to better data. One, you need access to the freshest, the best data, like as in the ownership data, has to be coming from a great source. If you're sending direct mail campaigns through PropStream to landowners, that's probably not going to cut it in 2025. Now, there's a lot of great data platforms out there. Obviously, I use Land Insights. You can make a free account at landinsights.co, like literally no subscription. So there's really no reason to not get access to super fresh, super high quality data. One of the things that you need to look at beyond just the data source, you need to look at how quickly is that data refreshed. In some counties, there's 50 to 100 or more sales every single month. And so if you have data that's not being refreshed from the recorder's office very often, you're going to market to people where their property already changed hands and there's a lot of waste there. The next thing when we think about data is we think about the data filters. I think it's never been more relevant to really filter down your data. Now, there's 2 layers to this. I'll touch on the second one in a second. But the first layer is what I call ownership filters, right? What are the filters that we can overlay that give us a higher likelihood of reaching people that are going to be motivated or be receptive to getting a cash offer on their property? I just did a monster, mega study in my business looking at all of the deals in 2025, and there's a lot of really interesting commonalities that I've found from the sellers that sell. Things like they live in the same county, live in the same state, but they absolutely do not live in the same zip code. It was something like less than 4% of our deals came from sellers in the same zip code. Ownership length, the age of the owner. I mean, there's so much there, right? We're looking at marital status, whether they own their home or rent, religion. I mean, we're looking at so many different variables. But as you start getting into this stuff, you realize it's very clear who sells and who doesn't sell. And so you need access to a data platform that allows you to really whittle down and filter your data. Now, I've used some of these lead scoring tools out there. You can certainly play that game. When I've used a lot of the lead scoring tools out there, I found that yes, we did get a better response rate, but I didn't see a big uptick in ROAS. And obviously that's all we care about, right? A lot of people scoff at direct mail because it's expensive on the front end, like you pay a lot up front, but that doesn't matter. I don't care about how much capital gets outlaid up front. I care about what does that bring in terms of a return. I'm gonna share with you guys a really interesting case study out of Leah to show you how profitable direct mail can actually be. But getting 10x plus with direct mail is totally doable. But you must be filtering your data to see those kinds of numbers. The third piece is what I call property filtering, right? When I got started, I marketed to every single property in a given county. If it was within my size range, that was enough for me. The problem with that is that in most markets, somewhere around 40 to 50% of all of those properties are properties that you probably don't want to buy. So for example, within our business nowadays, we use AI to remove landlocked. That's an obvious one. We use an AI building layer to remove any properties that have a building on them, even if they're not registering at the county assessor's level. We remove flood zone, wetlands, topography. We even filter for road frontage. You can get very granular with it. So you're removing properties that you shouldn't be marketing to. I think another really simple one that people miss with their data filtering as well is the exclusion on certain keywords within the title, right? You should not be sending marketing campaigns to the BLM or to state land or to city land or county land or Starbucks or Walmart. Get that out of your data. Like when I look at a lot of people's direct mail campaigns where they're not doing well, I could go through that list and I can quickly figure out that we could probably shave your list down by half. And that would quite literally double your return overnight from one simple change. So in 2025, I think it's essential that you're filtering out for properties that you don't want to buy. The next one is better pricing. I've tested range offers, blind offers, neutral letters, and time again, blind offers reign supreme and range offers do have their place depending on the price point of the property. I've never done well with neutrals personally. We've split tested this with our Leah members. Consistently, the math just seems a heck of a lot stronger for blind offers and range offers. So that means you need to have an offer in the letter that you're giving to a seller. The day and age of just trying to take the average for 5 to 40 acres in a market and sending an offer, those days are gone. You actually have to be pinpoint specific with the offers that you're creating. Now, the easiest way to do this is to find a market that's strong and then figure out a way to fracture that market into bite-sized pockets where you're gonna have homogeneous pricing. There's 4 things that we teach inside of Leah. We teach county-wide acreage ranges, zip codes, subdivisions, and polygons. And typically polygons are derived based off topographies within a county. And so that allows us to find a hot county and then break it down into smaller parts so we can create accurate offers to owners. Now, if you're using Land Insights, we typically look for a Gini score that's under 30. Then we remove the outlier comps in the last year, and I'm looking for no more than 100% delta from the low price to the high price for a given acreage range in the last year. The next thing is something that no one likes to do, including myself, and that's split testing. Now, I would be lying to you if I said I'm the king of split testing. There are people way smarter than me at it, way better than I am at it. And there's people that have ran way more split tests than I have. But what I can say is that I take a scientific approach to my business. And that probably doesn't mean what you think it means. What it really means is I'm a scientist that comes up with a different hypothesis, and then I run a test against that hypothesis to see if what I think is true. Now, I've been doing that since 2019 with really every part of the business. And a lot of what we teach inside of Leah has come from those little experiments that I've ran. So I think for you, you need to be thinking about how can I actually test this stuff? How can I become a scientist in my own business? And how can I allocate a certain portion of my marketing budget to testing and to experimenting? Now, it doesn't have to be a lot. Maybe it's 10%, 15% of your marketing budget, where you're saying every quarter, we're gonna run a test. Now, when you run a test, please make one change at a time. I see people that try to split tests and they're changing the envelope, the color of their letter, the copy in the letter, the pricing strategy. That won't work. It's one change at a time. You measure the results and you decide if it makes sense to incorporate that into your process moving forward. When you're running these studies too, you also have to have a control, right? So if I came up with a split test and I send my regular offer to one county and my new offer to a new county, that won't suffice, right? You need to take that county, take a given acreage range that you're gonna market to and literally split that data down the middle. So as much as possible, it's a fair test. Now with mail, split tests are gonna take time for you to actually see the results. And I think a lot of people get duped by what I call like these vanity metrics, like response rates and things like that. That doesn't really matter too much to me. Of course, we should look at it, but ultimately at the end of the day, what matters most is ROAS, right? Dollars in, dollars out. And that will take time for you to actually have valid insights. I say from the time a campaign is sent with direct mail, you need about 90 days for that campaign to season before you have really any reasonable judgment on if it worked or didn't work. Number 4 is better copy. I can't tell you guys how many letters I see where people are using either the copy that I've come up with or the copy that some other educators come up with, and everyone's saying the same thing. Hey, we're a family-owned business that buys land. We'd love to make you an offer. That's played out. Good copy is invaluable. I want you to think about creating copy from 2 angles. What we're looking to do is create a slippery slope, okay? Every sentence makes the person want to read the next sentence. And the best way to do that is both by the written word, the copy that you have in there, and then also the layout of the copy, how it's actually shown to you, right? You could have the best copy ever. If it's typeface 10 and it's one giant paragraph, that's not easy on the eyes to digest. So the actual layout for your copy does matter almost as much as the actual words that you choose. Number 5 is an easy one, better design. Now, I've been so unsophisticated at so many points in my journey. Like, I found one template that worked and I used that for 3 years. It was a black and white template and I made almost no changes to it. And then one day, about 3 years in, I decided to say, hey, what if I added like a color logo to this? Or what if I added a picture of myself on this? Sure enough, it had a pretty appreciable effect on our results. Same thing, I used a double window envelope for years. Then I moved to a regular letter with no window on it, and my response rate went up by about 50%. So I've done the wrong thing many, many times, but what I can tell you is design matters, and there's 2 layers to design. There's the design of the envelope, and there's the design of the actual letter. What I found is that color does win. Having the right level of design color on your letter matters. I think having a picture of yourself goes a long way if you're willing to do that. But what's the biggest needle mover is absolutely the envelope. What a lot of people suffer from is their letter just never gets open. Recently, I sent out some direct mail campaigns with a letter that had a very cool image of me kind of embedded into the letter that was just really different. It was just striking, honestly. And not because I was on it, it was just a cool design. And sure enough, we've had a very strong response rate from it by virtue of the fact that the letter actually gets open. Also, as a side tip, I'm saying nowadays that the double window envelope is not what it once was. When I first got started in the business, everyone said that's what you have to use. And just like with all marketing channels, someone finds a playbook that works, and then it gets exhausted and everyone's zagging that way and it's time for you to zig the other way. What I'm seeing nowadays is you can get a 50% uptick in your response rate just by changing the envelope to a standard letter with like faux handwriting on it. The last point, number 6, is what I call pattern interruption. You're probably not the first person to send a letter to an owner, so you need to have a little bit of shock factor to it, a little bit of wildness to it. Now that relates to the design, that relates to the envelope, that relates to the copy. Here is the opener from a recent campaign that I sent through direct mail. Howdy, first name. Hope your day is sweeter than a cup of iced tea on a hot summer's day. I mean, it's weird, right? But it's an interruption. It's a moment for them to say, yo, this guy's different. Like, this is a little weird. Now, you can take that too far for sure. There's limits to that concept. But if everyone is doing X, it's probably time for you to do Y. And I think just understanding the fact that you're not the first person to send them a letter, that's probably just a matter of fact in most markets. So there's an ROI to differentiating yourselves through your marketing. Now, I think the takeaway from this video is that direct mail is probably less crowded than it's been in a very long time. And you could argue because of that, there's never been a better time to be utilizing direct mail. With that being said, the model has changed dramatically. And I think what's been taught for years just no longer works anymore. And so it's time to upgrade your processes if you want to see results with direct mail. All right, that's the video, guys.
You're serious about flipping land for predictable profit, and you want to plug into the exact system our students are using to close their first deal or their next 10 deals, then tap the video right here. It's a free 15-minute strategy call where we're going to pull back the curtain and show you the exact LEA system that our students are using right now. We'll show you the entire process A to Z, how you can start landing deals in the next 90 days or less. Slots tend to fill up fast. Grab your spot now. And I look forward to showing you the exact LEA land flipping playbook that I've been using for the last 6 years and that nearly 500 other LEA members have used today. Click it and I'll see you inside.